He beat the crowd. If he made it first, he would make a big impression on the American president. And that if he made himself relatable, if he made the American president understand that the Russian people have also been dealing with terrorist threats and terrorist attacks, that he could forge some kind of alliance between Russia and the US, and that it would make them peers rather than make the American president look down on Russia, look down on the Russian president.
And yet we know that 6 years later in Munich, he's going to give a speech that's reminiscent of the one that he gives before Ukraine. I mean, what happens in between?
I think first it's Iraq. It's the invasion of Iraq. It's the fact that Putin says, don't do it. And George W. Bush not only doesn't listen to him, but completely evades one of the only international bodies where Russia still has a veto, still has real geopolitical power, which is the UN Security Council. And the way in which the US brushes Russia's concerns off really drive home to Putin that America doesn't care about what Russia thinks. It really drives home to Putin that Russian stature has not recovered from 1991, that Russian opinion still doesn't matter, that it doesn't really count for anything in Washington, that maybe if the Soviet Union had said, if you invade Iraq, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, Washington would have stopped to think. But when a post-Soviet Russia says it, it's easy to just completely brush off. And I think that really stung. And then the color revolutions, where America says we're spreading democracy, freedom, human rights, but really these are former Soviet republics. These are right on Russia's borders. And Putin sees them just as CIA-sponsored regime change. He sees it as old Cold War games. He thinks, you know, you guys are still doing the same old stuff. You haven't changed your stripes at all. And, you know, you just toppled Saddam Hussein. Now you're toppling my guys in basically former Russian colonies, places that he still thinks are his, right? Places that he still thinks belong to Russia. And America is still running NGOs and helping democratic activists and the democratic press inside Russia. And so he thinks, oh, they're coming for me next.
And in 2007 in Munich, he gives a speech, and we've talked to people who were there, and they say it was shocking and it was head-snapping. Did we pay attention to it? Did we understand the depth of what he was expressing there?
I think people understood what he was saying, but I don't think people took it seriously because Russia in 2007 was still poor, was still had a very weak military that still hadn't rebuilt and modernized after the Soviet collapse. It was still easy to dismiss Russia in 2007, and I think that only added to Putin's fury. The fact that he came out and said what he thought. He said, I'm telling you, I am angry. I am angry. He mentioned Iraq numerous times in that speech. He said, I warned you that exactly